Hi, Pierre. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this exciting, fun, funny, action-packed sequel. I loved it. Watched it with my 11-year-old daughter, and she loved it. So we had a lot of fun watching this incredible film. So congratulations for that, for the success it's still having at the box office and now digitally. So let me start by asking. I was reading that this production, right? It's somewhere that this production I had to speed up to avoid maybe comparisons with another upcoming film featuring anthropomorphic animals. I won't say the name. So if that's true, how did you handle the pressure and still deliver such a strong sequel?
Hey, thanks, Felix, for liking the film, first of all. Thanks for
It was
putting me.
awesome.
Uh, no, we never sped up for to avoid that comparison. I don't think so. It turns out it was. I think the release date for us was always over the summer, and then for Disney it was always a little later in the year. I mean, their slot is always November. That being said, though, it's a very cool
Uh-huh.
question because Zootopia released before, way before Bad Guys, right? In the first Bad Guys. Um, Funny enough, they almost like advertised it as first animated animal with clothes ever made. But like you're like,
Uh-huh.
hang on a tick, like Robin Hood was made in the 70s or whatever. But it was very interesting because for us when we did the first one, it was like, how do we not get compared with Sing and Zootopia when we do Bad
Mhm.
Guys? And I think the way we one of the way we did this, not the only reason why we did this, but one of the way we did this was to build a blended world of human and animals. Which in the books, by the way, they're just animals, but for us it was like the who is really afraid of the big bad wolf.
Mhm.
It is humans because
Mhm.
we write stories about him and we are afraid of snakes and spiders and blah blah blah. How does a giraffe reacts to a piranha? I have
Uh-huh.
no idea. But we make full like stories around piranhas, as humans. So I think that's why it was important for us to keep a world of humans and bring in the animals where the representation of scary villains, basically.
Mhm. Got
So
it.
it was kind of like tackling
Uh-huh.
two things with one stone in a way. We're killing two birds with one stone. It was like avoiding a comparison with these other two films and also really just diving a bit closer to the message we're trying to pass on.
Now that you mentioned that the visual style of this both films, it's so slick, it's so incredible, so unique. So did you have to push the look even further in for this sequel? Was there something specific that you wanted to try visually that you couldn't do in the first film?
Well, sequels are always great because you're building upon something you already did. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way to extend the world,
Yep.
so expand the world. So we created new location and blah blah blah. But to your point, there was a few things that I wanted to improve from the first film. When I say the team wanted to improve on the first film. Um, I think we did a few little tweaks on the characters themselves. I think Snake has a slightly thicker neck, and then Wolf has like wider shoulders. I think Diane has slightly meatier arms and legs. So like little changes like this, but very subtle. Um,
Uh,
but pushing the graphic quality of it a little bit for sure. So we have matte
mm-hmm.
paintings that feel more painted. We have like the relate like the line between the shadow and the lights. Is
Mm-hmm.
a bit more rough. We feel more of the brush strokes, and so that's one on the graphic side. That's what we pushed. But also on the visual side, we also have um, camera wise, we also have more bleeding, more. We push the tech around the anamorphic lenses. We engineered a new lens that we couldn't do before Bad Guys 2, which is a fisheye. So we're pushing on every front a little bit just to make sure that this movie feels a bit more of an expansion of the first one, just a bit more broad, a bit more ambitious, I think. And then special effects wise, we also refined our
Yeah.
techniques. And by the way, we're also benefiting from the evolution of technology within the studio between Bad Guys 1 and Bad Guys 2. through movies like Puss in Boots and Wild Robots and Dogman and
Oh,
all those
awesome.
films, which they themselves kind of unlocked a few ideas, a few tech, a few pipeline, endeavors that we can benefit on the second one. So definitely improved a few things, but wanted to stay true to the essence of the first one visually.
And you did awesome, by the way. So congrats. Tell me a little bit about the challenges in some specific sequences. For example, the first car chase sequence, the first robbery. It was so well, not only written but directed. It was action packed. It was so much fun and so funny, as well as the lucha libre sequence, which was kind of chaotic, but at the same time so well developed. So tell me about those specific sequences. What were those challenges and how did you work with it?
So the first thing that we always consider in this action scenes is it cannot be an action scene for the sake of an action scene. It has to be driven by an idea underneath it. So if you remember in the first film, and I love when that idea is like very highly relatable or personable. And so in the first movie was Snake's birthday, and they were going through the
Okay.
city being chased as he was celebrating Snake's birthday, and then you get to know the gang through his own relationship to birthdays. In this one, it was on the Carol chase. The idea was, all right, this is introduction of the car, so Wolf is testing his car. So we wanted just to bring the car into like super cool situations, different like freeway, a marketplace, blah blah blah. And second of all, it was the first time that the Tarantula was working with the bad guys. It was her kind of an interview job kind of situation, and she's afraid of the way Wolf is driving. She's never done that before, and she's terrified. So I think it really brought character moments within this scene, which could really help the audience like not be bored by action fatigue. It was like you still with your characters. Um, so that's the first thing we think about. In the lucha scene, I wanted a moment where the bad guys, it had to just lead to a complete misunderstanding from the chief of police point of view as to what the bad guys just did. Like they just, in her eyes, they're chased by these thousands of people and they have the belt, so they must be the thieves. So it had to lead there. It had to lead there in such a chaotic fashion that, as an audience member, you're like, you're so taken into this wild ride, and then you hard cut to some really calm moment of all of them kind
Yeah.
of gathering their thoughts and being a public enemy number one yet again, but like they don't even know how they got there. It had to be that feeling. So that's in a sense like the structure we wanted for these two sequences. Now, in terms of complexity, in terms of um,
Hmm.
you have really strong artists storyboarding these sequences, of course, which gives a very clean blueprint to executing sequences like this because they are very, very hard to do. Action is very hard to do. And then for the Cairo chase, it turns out to be one of the hardest sequences to do here in DreamWorks because uh, it's I think it's an average of 20 characters per shot, and we're covering so much ground within the city that we had to build an entire city, and then really tons of special effects in there. So very complicated sequence to do.
Yeah.
And the lucha scene was actually done at Sony Imageworks, and they had
Okay.
another set of challenges, which is a lot of crowd characters, a massive wave of people chasing them, and then a very complicated color coding of the sequence where each shot is such a very completely different lighting setup. So that was their own challenge on this sequence, and that was our own challenge on this sequence. But again, we're surrounded by people that are so good at what they do that they really could pull it off. But those sequences, to your point, you're putting fingers on some of the hardest ones we had to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about this film, how well you blend everything together and make it work so beautifully. So thank you for that. One last question. You built a career in animated projects, which offer a lot of creative freedom. So when do you see yourself bringing that creativity into live action filmmaking? And I imagine you must have plenty of ideas for that opportunity. So tell me a little bit about when are you planning to go into the live action
I
genre?
mean, animation is what I grew up with, and it is to your point, like the absolute freedom because you're literally creating everything that you see on screen. I'm not gonna lie, yes, of course, live action is something that attracts me. Why? Because it's in particular here, but I think maybe to the exception of Japan, there's not a lot of animated feature film that have. Uh, all of them are very geared towards like family or kids, and it's hard to make them for slightly older audiences. So that's why I think there's something about live action that excites me. Honestly, it's also working with actors on an animation set that there's something about a live performance that's very exciting, and it's also a lot faster to make. But bringing the vision of an animated film and the way we make them into live action is something that's very, very exciting. So one day, probably, I'd love to try at some point, yes. But
Awesome.
it's true that deep down, like animation is like what I've always done and what I, because like you really can let free of your imagination and just like have fun with that. And people working in the animation industry are so nice, you know. So, but at some point it will happen. Yeah.
I would love to see some live action thing, project from
Thanks.
your
Thanks.
directing perspective. So thank you, Pierre, so much. My time is up again. Congratulations on such a beautiful, exciting film, and hope it keeps doing well, not only in the box office but also digitally. So thank you again, and looking forward for the third installment. I think
Thanks.
we will see a third film, right?
We're crossing fingers. Totally. Thank you, Felix.